Hey guys, let's have a look today at the 2023 version of the Longines Spirit Flyback, an aviation-themed chronograph remade for the modern day by Longines, a brand that was one of the pioneers in watches for pilots. As an aviation enthusiast staring out the window of a modern jetliner as it readies itself for takeoff, it always amazes me to realize just how far aviation has come since the Wright brothers first flew their plane in 1903. Those early days of aviation were an age before the time of jet engines, computerized cockpits, and GPS, when brave men got into untested flying machines to find the limits of what was possible in the sky. Longines, a brand that came into being in 1832, was one of the premier brands at the time that supplied aviators like Richard Byrd, the first man to fly over the South Pole in 1929, and Amelia Earhart, the first female pilot to complete a transatlantic flight in 1932. Even Charles Lindbergh, famous for the first transatlantic flight from New York to Paris in 1927 in his plane, the Spirit of St. Louis, sought out Longines to help develop his famous hour-angle watch, a tool that would enable easier navigation over long distances. As aviation developed, pilots soon realized that new tools were required to make flying easier, and one of their requirements was a way for quick sequential measurements of elapsed time, necessary when navigating in correspondence with visible landmarks against waypoints on a map. Enter the Flyback Chronograph, an invention that took the basic chronograph and upgraded it with a special feature called the flyback function, allowing the watch to instantaneously begin a new measurement without the usual start, stop, and reset sequence. Using a normal chronograph is simple enough. You start and stop, and then reset via the lower pusher. A flyback chronograph adds an additional feature. Instead of stopping after starting, a quick push of the lower pusher allows the chronograph seconds hand to instantly return to zero and begin measuring elapsed time again. Being a supplier to pilots, it was obvious that Longines either anticipated this specific need or was responding to a request from a pilot. In any case, history records that the earliest mention of a wristwatch chronograph with flyback function comes from the Longines archives, dated to 1925, making the brand the inventor of this complication. Longines continued on, releasing more flyback chronograph watches in the ensuing years, then eventually filing a patent for the flyback mechanism in 1935. Admiral Richard Byrd would also, with this new watch becoming available and with his trust in the Longines brand, undertake 3 more expeditions to Antarctica, including one in 1939, during which he wore a Longines 13ZN watch with flyback function. Which brings us neatly to the new modern version we see here, which comes with a formidable legacy. As a pilot's watch, the Longines Spirit Flyback has all the essentials. Aside from the flyback chronograph, it also has a bi-directional bezel with a ceramic insert, large Arabic numerals, and a highly legible loomed handset that you can easily read under all circumstances. In keeping with the normal requirements for anti-magnetic protection of the movement in the cockpit, the watch has an exclusive Longines caliber L791.4 COSC with silicon balance and spring, and is also chronometer certified with 68 hours of power reserve. The sapphire caseback showcases details of this caliber with its column wheel in blue and a rotor engraved with a globe representing the Longines Spirit collection and the name Longines Flyback. Lastly, check out how this watch is so easily readable in the dark, with everything loomed including the bezel, making it as useful at night as it is in the day. What this basically means is that you'll be able to read this watch under all lighting conditions, which is par for the course and correct for a good pilot's watch. Probably the most obvious attribute of the new watch is how refined and modern it is overall. While there are obvious nods to history, what the watch aims to capture is the spirit of what came before, rather than be a close facsimile of a vintage model, since Longines does offer that kind of style in their heritage collections. Instead, what we have with the Spirit Flyback are a range of finishes from satin to matte to polished that really make the watch pop on the wrist. Here it is on my 16.5cm wrist, and with its 42mm wide case, it wears easily, helped by the relatively short lugs. Some have made mention of its 17mm thickness, which does sound intimidating on a spec sheet. Yet, it's important to look at this number in context. The 17mm is due to the domed crystal, as you can see here. If you measure the thickness of the watch to the height of the bezel, it's definitely in line with many other chronograph watches out there, which makes the whole thing entirely reasonable. There are two dial options available, a vibrant sunray blue and glossy black dial, and you can choose yours matched to a blue or brown leather strap respectively, or on a stainless steel bracelet. There is even a beige NATO strap version for the black dial variant available, if you really want to go for a more vintage look. What I like about the Spirit Flyback is how it comes from the brand that essentially invented its main highlight, the Flyback Chronograph. There are fewer complications in watchmaking than the number of brands available, and it's always special to wear a complication from the brand that first introduced it to the world. Furthermore, it's nice to have a watch that is able to remind us of the brave aviators that took to the skies more than 100 years ago, beginning a journey in the development of aviation as we enjoy it today.